justice, we are freedom bound. We'll do it a line at a time, first line. We will not turn back, we won't turn around.
Because I always fear that I won't be able to fight the battle and win, and then they remind me it's not about winning battles, it's about fighting on the right side of battles.
The day between the 2 days of testing, I get a call from the union saying that the superintendent was going to fire me at our noon meeting the following day if I didn't test that morning.
That's what makes a movement. Somehow or other we all fit into something bigger than any one of us. And this North Dakota Study Group is one of the places every year that keeps me sure.
I was looking for hope again. I was like, how do I find examples of the kind of education that I really believe in? Does it exist?
And she said, and she was looking for something to write this paper about, and she couldn't figure it out. And she calls me up one day and she says, Mom, she says, have you ever heard of a place called Highlander?
I called my mom up, and as she told all of you, and I was like, how come you never told me about this place? I know you know about this place.
And I'm thinking to myself, why didn't I tell her about that? You know?
One of the things that you really want to do, because it's so important for people to trust each other, to trust the people who they're in the room with, is that you really have to begin to build that trust on the very first evening that people come together.
The way that we are able to build community, just very briefly to reiterate and pass the microphone on, is by this idea of circle, the idea of gracious space, respect, being able to really relate directly to the community because we are from that place and because we have the very personal experience of having gone through the process that these students are going through now, and really the power of story and getting students to share the stories.
It's amazing what the kids are learning and how people have said you're doing this and you're hurting your students and they need a test, and that's the exact opposite message I'm getting, that Keaton now is finding a voice and really is empowered, is fired up, and
And we do that by going around and having people tell their stories and talk about who they are and why they've come and what their issues are.
You're all I need. You're all I need.
This is why I say that Highlander is a wonderful organization that's affected all of us very deeply who have been there, but you cannot come to it without a critical eye.
We work with districts, we work with teachers, we work, when we're lucky, with kids, rolling up our sleeves, trying to make sure that teaching and learning is the focus of our assessment system.
It pains me because I hear you and I read Gallagher and trying to put Miles Horton into this framework, and underneath it all, the democracy was not there.
How do they make sure that they are being grounded in children's individual learning and cultural styles and strengths?
We call them psychos.
Vincent, am I smart? And if you know me, I'm a comedian. You know, this is a question asked me by several of my children in the classroom. And I kind of just smiled and laughed and wondered, what is this child really asking me? But I'm not smart. I always fail the state exams, so that must mean I'm not smart, right? I'm looking at this child and I'm saying, no, you just may not be so well at taking this particular exam or these particular types of exams, but you're a thinker, a critical thinker.
One of the things the most important part of your speaking was when you said that you had failed. And I feel like I don't hear that much anymore. That it's all about, look what these people did, and you only get to hear the end part, not so much the failure and the process. And so the second you get to something and it's really hard, you're like, oh, this is too hard for me, I'm not going to do it anymore. So I think that there needs to be more people saying, we failed and we tried again, in order for us to understand that it's possible.
And I already experienced a hellish nightmare with that last year, so I'm told 2.5 weeks before that it's time for our school quality review, and I better get myself ready for that. So I'm in the process of losing $322,000 and trying to make sure that we don't wind up with another disastrous problem with the school quality review.
If you had been in a position to have used all these resources of time, energy, and thoughtfulness towards doing something that wasn't in reaction to them, but for your own purposes, how different it might have been.
Trying to get out of
hope to understanding, understanding to action, action, reaction, back to action. What? Action. Need, take. Creating safe, democratic environments, classrooms.
We wanted some young people who were grounded, were committed to their place, that understood their place, that took action.
I get this phone call from my wife. You know, my boy was an 8th grader in middle school, and she's, you know, kind of anxious, you know, and I can feel the tension over the phone, and she says, you know, I just got a phone call from Emiliano, and he wanted to tell me that everything was okay, but he wanted to also tell me that he and his friends are at the state capitol. This was noon, in the middle of a school day. And she says, and I don't know what to do. What do I do? I said, take water, take sandwiches, do something, you know? That's what you've been raising the boy to do.
The assessment, or pass the assessment, it's really knowing the kid as a learner. It's a descriptive kind of, who is this kid? How does their brain churn? How do I connect with them? What are they like? And it's a whole different way of thinking about the teaching and learning process.
We wanted our children to stay in their communities. What we described is that we wanted a school system that produced the kind of people we'd like to have live next door.
For candy or whatever, and I give them a carrot, and the kids, you know, at first they're just like, what the hell? But it's crazy, like, they are totally into it. I have kids coming up left and right, can I have a carrot, can I have a carrot?
What's so good about the Fire Youth Squad is this platform. It's like that's the hope, you know. With this platform, it gave me hope. It gave me purpose.
And started flipping through them, and sure enough, there on one of these little note cards was Miles' handwriting. It was dated Denmark, December 1931, and it's what you have in your book. It's the I have dreams. I cannot sleep because I have dreams. And I read it, and he talks about the thing to do is to go back home, get a place, and start, and begin with a situation, and let the situation tell him what to do.
And so I think the education we do in our place leads to the moment that can bring on the movement.
And I tell this child that I put my arm on this child's shoulder and tell him, you know, you're smart, but you know, there's just different ways of measuring it. And what kept me going is, you know, the next day, here comes this child, lollipopping, skipping down the hallway. Hey, Vincent, I'm here. And I'm like, all right, you didn't fold. You didn't fold. So if this little child doesn't fold, there's no way that I can fold. So that's why I stay to fight. Keep the fire burning.